Everyone tells us that we need to invest our money in order to secure our retirement. But for many, this can feel daunting because it often means taking on investment risk and facing the possibility of losing money. In this video, I wanted to find out if it is really possible to secure a stable retirement income without taking on too much investment risk. To explore this, I sat down with Eddie, CEO of Heaven. Heaven aims to help people secure their retirement while finding the best fit for their financial situation and retirement goals. So Eddie, given that the market is such a scary place to grow our money, do you think it's actually possible that we don't invest at all and instead top up into CPF? Will that actually be enough to secure retirement?
The short answer is yes, but let me elaborate a bit more. The recent tariff war that resulted in the correction in the market is an example of investing risk. When you invest in the market, you must be prepared of such volatility that will cause uncertainty in your investment assets. If you're not comfortable, then you should look into other safer assets to build your retirement assets. But thankfully, in Singapore, we have our CPF scheme that allows you to grow your assets from 2.5% to 4% or above, okay? Regardless of market conditions. So even when the market corrects in the recent sharp downturn by 10 to 15% on US markets, your CPF continue to grow at 2.5 to 4% year on year. So that gives you a lot of certainty when you plan for retirement. In fact, when it comes to retirement planning, CPF should be a big component in your retirement plans. As to whether CPF alone is sufficient, it really depends on your needs for retirement. Yeah, I mean, if your retirement age is 65 or above, and you are expecting about $3,000 per month of income stream, then maximizing your CPF alone can provide you that income that you need. Okay. However, if you prefer even higher payouts or earlier retirement, then you need to supplement your CPF with other form of safe income assets.
So when you say like CPF is enough for retirement, actually does it actually accounts for inflation? Because maybe Singapore has an average inflation rate of like 2.5%, but if you do the CPF payout under the standard plan, then it's fixed for life.
Yeah, that's right. That's a very good question. The standard plan and the basic plan actually is a flat payout for life. Okay. However, if your intention is to mitigate inflation, then I think that you should consider the escalating plan. Even though the initial payout is lower, it can increase every 2% every year to pay up. Of course, it really depends on your overall retirement goals, and that's where you need to really have a discussion to have an understanding of what your assets are, what is your expectations, what's your needs, and then we can build a complete solutions, a holistic solutions to meet your retirement needs.
So what does a secure retirement mean to you? Is it just about income, or are there any other factors that many people often overlook?
When we think about retirement adequacy, whether to secure a good retirement, people always talk about having, let's say, $1 million or $1.5 million as a comfortable retirement amount to work for. Okay, but it's true that you need to have a sizable amount, but more importantly is to create an income stream that is reliable and that is able to mitigate the 5 risks that retiree faces. The 5 risks are basically from 1, inflation risk, as you mentioned just earlier. Okay, suppose if you want to retire at $5,000 a month for the next 25 years, say for age 60 to 85, that will set you back about $1.5 million in total spending. Okay. Of course, with inflation, things get expensive. You can't be spending $5,000 every month for the next 25 years, right? Okay, you become poorer and poorer.
Yes.
So you need to build that inflation. So the amount will be bigger than $1.5 million. That is inflation risk. The amount that you need to set aside is actually bigger. Number 2 is living longer, longevity risk. Singapore has one of the longest life expectancy. Average male is about 81, female about 85. And these numbers is increasing. And what it means is that 50% of the people will live beyond for then 81 years old.
Yes.
So therefore, if we live longer, then we need to factor even more. Assuming if you live 5 years longer, then you need to have even more than $1.5 million plus the inflation. So that is longevity risk. Because the amount that we need to work towards is actually quite sizable. Many people actually turn to investments to get the potential returns. That brings up the third risk, which is investing risk. When we talk about investing risk, we are talking about the the market volatility, the uncertainty in the value. So when you go into investing, you need to be very comfortable with the investments, such that if the market comes down, you can still be at ease without fearful. All right, that is investing risk. The fourth risk is healthcare costs. As you grow older, we will see doctor more, we will go for medical treatment, and therefore it means that the cost of healthcare will go up. And we know that the integration plans, the premiums are always going up. So you need to factor that the cost in your planning. And lastly is overspending risk. Spending in a way that is not sustainable. For example, some people may want to overspend in the initial years because they are entering into retirement more, they travel more. But if we overspend, we could deplete the retirement assets earlier than expected. So these are the 5 risks that a retiree faces. And it's important that when we do planning, we need to address these 5 risks to secure the retirement. So at Haven, we have a retirement approach. It basically addresses the 3 C's that's essential for retirement. The first C stands for CPF management. So we need to manage our CPF well because that is your assets. That's your risk-free assets that give you very good returns. You need to maximize it for your retirement, number 1. Number 2 is cash flow. Okay, we need to make sure that our cash flow is able to provide a reliable stream to meet your essential expenses, your die must-have expenses, meet your healthcare premium expenses because it's increasing, and also lastly to provide for your discretionary, whereby you spend when the market does well. So the third C is basically your coverage. It is basically creating that medical safety net that if a medical conditions crisis happens, right, it doesn't deplete your retirement assets. Okay. All right. So these are the 3 C's that is very important that you need to address in order to secure your retirement.
So with that in mind, how much should I actually allocate for my retirement? Because you mentioned there's CPF, then coverage, then the cash flow. So in total, what's the total amount to allocate to each of them? And because I heard that when you are retired, you spend lesser. So is it true that you spend 20% lesser as compared to when you are working?
I see. All right. So 2 questions, right? First question is, how much should I set aside to plan for retirement?
Yeah.
Is that okay? I mean, the common narrative is that you should set aside about 20% of your income for retirement planning. Okay. Well, even though this is a very easy approach, okay, because you know how much income you have, you set aside 20%, that should set aside, that should be able to determine. However, it's not so straightforward because for a person who is in the 30s, okay, not too long in the career, setting aside 20% could be a good start. However, if a person who is 50 years old, and you have not done any retirement planning and you want to start with 20%, I think it's a bit too little and too late. So it really depends on the situations because the individual's financial resources, their assets, their commitments to family are all different. Contribute at a way whereby it's comfortable and that you can balance between your current lifestyle as well as saving for the future. So that would be a better approach. Of course, 20% could be a good guide. It's better to go into understanding your situations. The second question is it's an interesting question about whether will you be spending lesser, 20%, right? You're saying? Yeah. Spending 20% lesser when you retire. I mean, the conventional wisdom is that people should spend lesser when they retire, right? Because otherwise you need a lot of money to plan for retirement. I mean, if you have a lot of money, you can continue to spend the same or increase, right? However, it may not be the case for everyone. So again, let me give you an example. If let's say we have a friend that is very frugal, okay, he is very lean in terms of his spending. He don't travel, he don't entertain, he doesn't entertain, he doesn't, splurge, okay, this and that. All right, do you really think that he can cut any further when he retire? It's unlikely, right? Okay, because he's really to the minimum bare essentials. All right, so it may not be a case. For this person, perhaps actually the expense may go up because as the person retires, he has more free time, he may want to travel more, the expenses go up. So your planning has to adjust according to his situation, it may not be so straightforward to just cut 20% off. I mean, that could be a simple approach, but may not be holistic.
So is there like an amount people can aim for? Like, is there a formula to calculate how much I actually need for retirement?
Okay, so a simple way is to first of all look into your current expenses.
Okay.
Right. Start with that first. Okay, and then identify. Okay, if imagine when you retire, will you be still spending these expenses?
Okay.
So, for example, if let's say as part of the expenses, it could includes children education. Right, you can cut that out. All right. Mortgage loans, you can cut it out. Okay. Or maybe during this period of time, while you're working, you have a lot of company benefits to pay for maybe your physiotherapy, chiropractor expenses, which are expensive. Okay, perhaps you think that retirement you want to cut back. So this is where you start from where you are right now, your current lifestyle, and then do some adjustments to estimate what we will be like in your retirement. Of course, you might want to add in some expenses like traveling, hobbies. You should factor that in.
So let's use a scenario. If I have $8,000 in spare cash every year, what is the best way to allocate the money? Should I just top up my CPF in full?
Okay.
Or should I like split the money across, like maybe top up some to CPF, some to investments, some to maybe buying retirement plans?
Yes.
Yeah, especially if right now I'm in my 20s. Yeah, what is the best way to allocate this money?
I think the question to ask is whether do you need a liquidity? Okay. Right? When you put in this $8,000, do you need a liquidity? Meaning that do you need to tap on it? And when do you need to tap on it? Okay, because in your 20s, for most people, there are a lot of competing needs in this life phase. All right, it's like lifestyle. It's like family planning, buying a house, marriage, parenting, bringing up children, that kind of stuff. And these are progressive. All right. If you foresee that the $8,000 that you put in you need to tap maybe in 5-10 years time. Okay, then you cannot lock in the money. Okay, so in that sense, you may consider things like investing without much lock-in, or you can consider T-bills or SSDs to give you the return that you need. Okay. However, if let's say after considering all that, okay, these are really your spare cash. You're willing to commit until 55 and above. Okay, so I think for those cases, you can actually consider setting aside the CPF because CPF actually has a lot of advantages. Firstly, it gives you at least 4% if you put in special account, 4% returns. Okay, guaranteed regardless of market conditions. And secondly, you can also enjoy income tax savings. So that's actually quite a good option to consider. Suppose you are in your 30s, okay, in your late 30s, where your financial commitments, your cash flow are more certain, okay, and you want to build a retirement income stream. This is where you can also consider retirement income products or retirement annuities to provide the income streams for your retirement.
So when we talk about retirement income, it's not on the minds of most people. So because when we think about growing our wealth or preserve our wealth, we look at SSB, T-bills, investment, CPF, SRS, and stuff like that. So when does retirement income help with our retirement planning?
Okay. Just I mentioned the 5 risks of retirees. Okay. So one of the risks is investing risk. Okay. You invest in the market, right? Okay. So you experience in the recent tariff war, the US market dropped by 10-15%. All right. So how does it make you feel? Do you have to change your lifestyle because of this 10-15% drop?
Right now, not yet, because I'm not relying on that for income.
Yeah, so precisely the case. All right, when a person is working, all right, and when the market drops, the person is usually not too worried. Why? Because there is an income stream that is safe and reliable that is coming in to meet your living expenses. Okay, so when markets drop, it's okay. I still have an income stream to pay for it. Okay, however, imagine today you retire. You don't have this income stream anymore. All your retirement expenses is depending on your investment alone. And the market is experiencing a sharp drop of 10-15%. How does that make you feel? I think for most people, they'll be very concerned, right? Because the questions in mind will be, should I cut back on my spending? Should I go back and find some work? all right? So that my investments doesn't reduce because I continue to consume the investments, right? So that's the importance of having a reliable stream of income to support you when it comes to retirement. You should have two streams of income. One income that provides reliability regardless of market conditions, and another stream to capture the market's returns for potential growth. All right. So regarding the essential expenses or the safe, reliable flow income, this is where instrument like your CPF Life comes in. It is very safe regardless of market condition. It still continue to pay you annuity income, but CPF has a limit. Suppose the amount that you want is much bigger than what the CPF can afford, then this is where you consider plans like your retirement income plans to add the extra layer to provide the income stream such that in the event of market crisis, market corrections, you can still continue to go on your retirement without too much adjustment because your basic needs are being met.
But then my counter argument for that would be like, if I need a fixed income for retirement, I can go for like dividend stocks, bonds, or even like SSBs, T-bills. So why consider retirement income at all?
Okay. So when I talk about safe income flow, it doesn't mean that it's only CPF Life or retirement income. In fact, your bank deposits, T-bills, SSBs can also be included as that because it is not correlated to market volatility. All right. For those who are very savvy, they are able to get a rental income or dividend income that is more or less fixed. Okay, that can be good as part of the die must have safe income flow. Okay, but for most men on the street, they are not so savvy. Having that CPF Life and RI is actually a very simple solutions that they can consider, and they have safety in that.
So for retirement planning, right, we also have to choose what kind of CPF Life plan that we want. So is it like basics plan, standard plan, or the escalating plan? As well as the retirement sum, like should we go for PRS, FRS, or ERS? Like which is the best one to go for?
Okay, under the CPF retirement scheme, there are two important milestones. Okay, first is age 55, and second is reaching age 65. So at 55, what happens is that your special account is now closed. Right. So the amount from your special account and or OA account will be transferred to your RA account.
Right.
Okay, to build a retirement account for CPF Life. The amount that you can put in is actually there are three choices for you to consider. Firstly is BRS, basic retirement sum. Okay, you have the full retirement sum, which is 2 times of the BRS, as well as 4 times of BRS, which is the enhanced retirement sum. For example, if you are 55 this year, if you have $213,000 in your SA account, so that will be the FRS amount that will transfer to your RA. Okay, as a sense, this amount at age 65, you can get about $1,300 to $1,700 depending on the CPF life plan you choose. Okay, of course, if you go for BRS, then it will be half of this amount. Let's say about $800 a month. If you go for ERS, like that will be $3,000 a month. So typically, how do you choose? I think for us, we believe very strongly in having at least FRS. Okay, you should have FRS that will secure you about $1,500 a month of retirement income stream at age 65. Okay. However, if you feel that you want to have more, you can actually increase this amount up to the enhanced ERS, enhanced retirement sum. Okay, to get a $3,000. So that is really some balancing act you need to consider. At age 65, you have 3 options to choose from the plans. CPF Life for standard plan. Okay, it actually pays the highest payout at age 65. Okay, or you choose a basic plan which is lower, or escalating plan which is even lower but escalating 2%. Usually, when we think about creating income stream, we want to get as much as possible for the income floor. Okay. I know, but for some people, they could consider, for example, if let's say they don't think that they will live very long, they think that they may pass away before life expectancy of 80 years old, then I think maybe basic could be a better choice. Okay, if the person feels that they can live very long, maybe 95, 100 years old, then escalating the total amount will be much more. Okay, but because we don't know when we will pass on, right? So I really think that the standard plan is actually one of the best considerations because it gives you the highest payout at 65 for as long as you live.
So if I in my 50s and maybe I've not started any retirement planning at all, what should I do at this point?
Okay. Firstly, you should quickly take stock. Okay, take stock. Take stock of what you have, what your assets, what your CPF. Okay, and then you should also find out what is your retirement goal. When do you want to work until when you start retiring? How much you will need for how long? All right, and then from there you determine is there a gap between what you have and what you hope to achieve. If there's a gap, then there will be some adjustment needed. Okay, the adjustment could be readjusting your asset allocation or putting more savings in while you're working, or even delaying your retirement or having a lower expectation. Aim for lower expectations so that your retirement assets can support that goal. But more importantly, I think if you are starting to plan at 55, it's important to seek advice quickly so that there's still time for you to do planning before you really retire.
So is there any specific thing that they can do to kickstart their journey?
At 50 or so?
At 50, yeah.
So actually the taking stock is actually an actionable plan step.
Okay.
So when I talk about taking stock, it basically means to find out what you have, like how much money you have in your savings account, okay? How much money in your investment account? How much money in your CPF account, okay? Whether is there any opportunity to maximize your CPF, all right? So that could include topping up, okay, transferring your way to SA to increase it to reach your FRS, all right? So these are some things you can do, okay? First of all, to understand what you have, okay? And whether this is able to support your retirement goals, because if you want to retire, let's say in 5 years' time, you want to have maybe $5,000 a month, you need to estimate whether what is the total amount that you would need to have. Whether your current amount, your current investment assets is able to support that. Hopefully you can support it. You can support it, then that's great. Okay. In fact, you could retire earlier. All right. Okay. Thankfully. But if not, then really you have to make adjustments. This is where you probably need either you do it yourself or you seek professional help to advise you. Yeah.
Okay. So what's the biggest mistake you see people in their 30s or 40s or even 50s make when it comes to retirement planning?
Just like I mentioned about 3 C's that is essential for retirement, CPF management, cash flow, and coverage. I think one of the things that people often overlook is the coverage portion because they may think that, well, it's important to just save as much as you can, to invest as much as you can, not considering having the safety net set up first because perhaps they are healthy, they won't think that anything will happen to them. Okay, but the problem with coverage insurance is that if it is underwritten based on good health. If there's any medical conditions, pre-existing conditions, the person cannot get coverage anymore. Therefore, one of the things that you should be considered is to make sure that the coverage is well set up, okay, so that it will prime well into retirement.
So the reason I asked this is because I have term plan, and it's because people always say buy term, invest the rest. But the problem with that is that after 65, this term plan ends. Then after 65, if I kena anything, what happens at the time? So with that in mind, right, should I get whole life plan instead so that I can cover after 65?
Okay, that's a very good question. The way to think about this is this. Our insurance needs actually changes over time, from working phase to retirement phase. Okay, in the working phase, the concern is about dying too early. It's about disability or critical illness that affect our ability to earn an income, because it is our ability to earn an income that is our greatest financial assets. Okay, therefore, it's perfectly fine to buy a term plan that covers over your working years because that's the most important risk. Okay, suppose you are able to go through these working years, accumulate enough retirement assets. Okay. Then, as you enter into the retirement phase, they are not concerned about dying too early. Okay, that's not the most important consideration. In fact, the consideration is living too long, right? Okay, because if we live longer, it means that we need more retirement income. Okay, we need more. We need to incur more hospital expenses. We have higher risk of suffering from long-term care. These are areas whereby your insurance should be adjusted to cover that. If your coverage can still pay out in your retirement years, then that's good. But it is an extra. It's not must-have, right? Because that is not one of the most important. So what it means is that when you move from working years to retirement years, you need to review your insurance policies, whether is it still necessary. If it's still necessary, then you can keep it. If not, you may consider cutting down so that you can reduce the premiums.
With that in mind, right, what kind of protection do I need during retirement?
There are basically two key areas that you should have. Okay, and this will create the sufficient safety net for your retirement years. Firstly is hospitalization. Okay, as we grow older, the chances of needing hospital treatment will increase. Okay, so we need to have that. And second, which is often overlooked, is long-term care insurance. Basically, this is your casual life supplement, or in the older series, the MediShield. Okay, this is where disability or dementia happens such that we are no longer able to function independently, needing the help of caregiver. Okay, I mean, as we grow older, the chances of illnesses like dementia actually increases. Okay, so these are the two areas that retirees should consider.
So what about like those CI, critical illness, and maybe like accident plans? Is it like must-have during retirement?
It is good to have. I'll categorize this as good to have. Okay. Because usually accident plans, the conditions are more short-term. Okay, is when you think of accident plan, usually is the going for visiting GPs for treatment and stuff like that. For critical illness, it's good to have because if you have a very good hospital plans, okay, that covers most of your hospitalization bills, okay, that should be good enough, right? No doubt there will be some expenses that cannot be covered by hospital plans, okay, because nowadays it can only cover up to 95%. The 5% cannot be covered, right? So this is where the critical illness plan can use to supplement the gaps. But I will say that this is not really essentials. It's good to have it. Okay, you have it, that's good. If not, it's fine. You can self-insure that portion.
When you talk about self-insuring, probably you will need to take that into account when planning for retirement. So
that's right.
How much should we realistically set aside for healthcare costs during retirement?
Okay, this is not easy to answer. There's no straightforward answer to this. Okay, healthcare costs, actually there are two components. Firstly is the premiums, we're buying the insurance premiums for hospitalization, and secondly is the outpatient, out-of-pocket expenses. Okay, for example, going to outpatient specialists, outpatient GPs, you go for your dental treatment, the extraction. These are not covered by your IP plans, okay, or your MediShield Life plans. Okay, so there is these two components that you need to consider. But what is more important is the IP or MediShield Life premiums. When it comes to IP, integrated shield plans premiums, because of the recent increases in premiums over the last 5 to 10 years, it keeps increasing every 2 years. All right. So it come to a stage whereby it might be very expensive when you reach 75, 80 or so. So therefore, when you consider your retirement adequacy, you should factor the increasing premium into your plan. Okay, to see whether firstly can your MediSave be able to support it. Okay, right now there are tools available online. There's a new tool called the Health Insurance Planner on the CPF website, whereby you can actually compute your payments for your integration plan, MediShield Life, casual life supplements, and then to see whether MediSave account be able to support it. For some people, it will come as a root shock that actually it cannot be supported. At the age of maybe 80 or so, the MediShield Life could have gone in negative, gone to zero. Okay, and what this means is that you either have to top up into your MediSave account, or you have to use cash to pay for the premiums in full. Okay, so it's very important to consider this element in your retirement planning.
So let's say if I have limited budget to top up the CPF and also to invest, Then now healthcare costs also come into play. Then how should I allocate money to all these three different areas?
Okay. So the thing about healthcare costs is to consider these two things. Firstly, what is your healthcare expectations? And then whether you can afford it. Okay. So we don't always have to go for the highest plan because it will be very expensive in the future. Okay, as we age. Okay, so the first thing to ask yourself is that what is your healthcare expectations? Are you okay with subsidized ward in public hospital, B2, C ward? It's a lot of shared resources, basic healthcare expectations. If you're okay with that, then your MediShield Life is sufficient. The thing about MediShield Life is that it is very affordable. Okay, so what it means is that your MediSave account, in most cases, should be able to support it, support the premiums for long. Okay, however, if your expectations is higher, you want to have better amenities, room amenities. All right, you want to choose your doctors, you want to have shorter waiting time. Okay, this is where you have to buy an integration plan, whether is it in a public hospital or in private hospitals. But bear in mind the premiums of these are very expensive, especially for private hospital plans. All right, as you're considering the expectations, healthcare expectation, you also need to consider your cost. I mean, whether with your MediSave account, where your cash, your retirement assets, you will support it. If not, then I think it's better to consider downgrading it at some point in time. Because ultimately, the final determinant of your hospital plans is your ability to pay. If you can't pay, you can't have the plan. Okay, so adjust accordingly. If you want to have that high level of coverage, then make sure that it should be factored into your retirement assets in your planning.
On the topic of CareShield Life, actually personally, I've only the most basic CareShield Life because it's free, because it's funded by CPF.
It's your money.
It's not my money because it's. So do I really need to top up to a higher premium plan or just leave it as it is?
Okay, the current CareShield Life payout for this year is $662 per month. So if a person suffers from long-term care, all right, the payout will be $662 per month. Is this sufficient? According to Singlife long-term care studies published in 2024, it suggests that average cost of long-term care is about $3,000 per month. Okay, so what this means is that it's not enough lah. Then, what about the risk? Or what's the risk of person having suffering from long-term care? According to national statistics, okay, it's estimated that 1 in 2 Singaporeans aged 65 will suffer some form of long-term care in their lifetime. So if you think about it, 1 in 2 basically 50%, 50% chance of striking long-term care. Okay, and if you strike today, okay, it will cost about $3,000 a month. Okay, how about duration? The duration could be about 4 years average, or could be as high as 10 years and above, depending on the type of conditions. It could be a stroke, dementia, so it could be very long drawn. So when you think about it, the risk is actually quite significant and the amount can be fairly huge. So there are two ways to think about it. One way is that I self-insure. I buy the minimum CareShield Life supplement, 600. What it means is that if it happens, if the other 50% happens to me, okay, I need to come up from my retirement assets to fund it. Okay. However, the cheaper way will be the insurance premiums, because you are paying a small amount, and this amount can be partially covered by your CPF MediSave account, right? About up to $600 a year can be taken up from CPF MediSave account to pay for these premiums. Okay, and it's a way of increasing your safety net. Okay, to take care of expenses such as this that will not ease into your retirement savings.
So when you talk about upgrading the plan, how much extra do I need to upgrade to?
If you based on the average studies, the studies for Singlife, right, is about $3,000. So if you currently have about $600 over, that will be about $2,300 extra to pay for it. All the premiums that you can pay for it, up to $600 can be can be used from your CPF. So the balance have to be through cash. Okay, so this is a way of mitigation that you can consider. Okay, but this $3,000 is only for the average. Okay, if there are expectations of having a dedicated domestic helper as a caregiver, because sometimes the family members may not be able to be there 24/7 to take care of the patients, right? Okay, you need extra help from somewhere. Okay, from the domestic helper. Okay, then the cost will go up. It could go up to about $4,000 or $4,500. Or the worst case scenario in terms of caregiving will be the institutional. Okay, home-based care, nursing home. That will be a wide range. It can range from $4,500 to as high as $11,000 per month. Okay, so it's a huge spectrum. Okay, but I think for the starting point, you should at least cover $3,000 right away, so that it gives you that adequate safety net.
So before we end, just now you mentioned a bit about the core planning service. I'm wondering how can people benefit from it?
The core planning service is essentially about securing your own retirement. Okay, by looking into the 3 C's, that's very critical for retirement. Basically, looking into how to optimize CPF towards securing your retirement. Number 2 is about creating a reliable cash flow that supports your essential expenses, your healthcare cost, as well as your discretionary expenses. And lastly, creating the adequate safety net so that in the event of unexpected medical expenses, your retirement plan can continue without disruption. The benefits of this service is that you have clarity of what you can do to secure your own retirement.
And how much is this service?
This is a complimentary service. At Haven, we want to create a safe place for people to seek advice without the pressure of overselling, mis-selling, and pressure selling.
So if you guys need to seek any advice on retirement planning or insurance planning, I have a link here which you can use to get in touch with Haven. And yeah, so that's all. Great. So thank you, Eddie, for this interview. Okay, that's all. Bye.
Bye.